Okay, in the last video we left off with human population expanding greatly through the industrial age up till today, and no end in sight until 2050 or so, or 2100. So obviously population's going up, and it doesn't look like demand for seafood is going to be going down anytime. Now let's see what has happened over the past 50 years or so. If we go this graph here, we'll see we've actually kept catching more and more fish. So that seems like not a bad thing, really. We've managed to actually keep increasing our catch, and you got to wonder how much fish can we catch? How much can the ocean produce? Can we just keep increasing our catch forever? So what happened was, after World War II, in 1950 here, there were 1945, the war ended. There were lots and lots of hungry people in Japan and Europe, and economies and all the infrastructure just devastated by shelling and war, and workers being killed off in the fighting and the like. And so the world turned to the ocean to look for a source of food, and they had a lot of extra boats that were no longer needed in the transport chain for the war effort. So a lot of them were converted to fishing vessels, and out they went. And so the fishing effort started going up, and so the catches started going up. And we can see here that the catches going up actually kept up with the population increases. So this is the amount of catch in kilos per person per year worldwide in terms of fisheries. So we catch about what looks like just about 19 kilos per person per year of seafood. Now, it was up to 20 or so, and you'll see it seems to have tailed off a little bit here. Okay, and the way we've done it, when you look at it, is not very sustainable, because what we've done, we keep catching more and more, but by going from species to species. So what we do is we catch we catch the easy big groupers and tuna that are close to shore, and then we go offshore a little bit further. We wipe that fishery out or overfish it, and then we go a little bit further. We'll go out and we'll catch deeper water cod, and then we overfish that one, and then we go to the next one, and we keep expanding out, looking for more and more fisheries. And in the 50s, there weren't fisheries for things like kawai or jack mackerel. They were used as bait and you would get very little in return. It would hardly even be worth your effort to go out and catch them. Now people are fishing for things like jellyfish, and you can go to some Asian countries and order fried jellyfish off of menus. So by catching jellyfish, that goes into the tonnage of the catch. We're not catching nearly as much of the big pelagics that we used to, and we have actually wound up going to from species to species, and we've only got underexploited, underutilized of 9% of the world fisheries, 6% depleted, overexploited 16%, heavily fully exploited 44%, moderately exploited 23%, and recovering. Some have been fished so hard that they're in the recovering stage. And so if we look at the trends of some of the big catches over the last 50 years or so, so we see the Atlantic cod, it went way up in the 70s. Huge catches. This is on the U.S. and the European side hooked together. Okay, and then so Okay, 14 million tons, I believe, is what that is. And should have units here on this side. That's pretty poor having a graph without units. Anyway, so through time, you can see that the catch has dropped off and nearly in a state of collapse, and it has completely collapsed on the U.S. Canadian side of the Atlantic. Oops. And here we go, global blue crab catch. Now this is a smaller fishery, but the catch has gone, but important in a lot of areas. Okay, catch went up, and then dropping off in the last 10-15 years. Okay, place. Now this is a very important Pacific groundfish fishery, Bering Sea, the Bering Straits. So up it goes, and then down. So it would have been overfishing it for sure, and now the stocks are at near collapse. Okay, southern bluefin tuna. We used to catch 80,000 ton on a regular basis, and a lot of that used to be caught, or these fish used to migrate through New Zealand. Now they still do. You can go catch them off a Hokitika, but the catch has gone down substantially and is nowhere. The stocks are nowhere where they used to be, and had we managed them better, we could probably be catching quite a bit more today. So it looks like quite a stable fishery here, but this is also going through a period of huge expansion of effort. So much more effort has gone in to catch the same amount of fish over the last 15 years, 20 years. Okay, and if we look at global tuna, when you go to the supermarket, what sort of fish do you buy? Tends to be canned tuna, right? So up we go, big catches in the 60s, huge catches. They used to net bluefin off the Atlantic and sell them as cat food. But now, over the last 50 years or so, we've fished hard. These are very fast-growing, prolific reproducers, and yet we're still managing to fish them down. So most of the tuna stocks are in bad shape. Okay, some are doing okay, but most of the tuna stocks need some serious effort control. Okay, here we go. We've got the Aleutian Islands, Bering Sea cod catch. So we saw the place, and so the place were caught first. Cod going up and then back down. Okay, so this is a big fishery. Okay, and this is what you would eat a lot of the time when you're eating fish and chips from McDonald's, or I mean not fish and chips, McDonald's fish burgers. And so you can see that the catch is declining. And finally, the global shark catch. Okay, long-lining industries have expanded hugely over the last 50 years, and drift netting, although banned now, would have taken a big toll on this. A lot of these shark catches were never even reported to, so we don't actually know exactly what was caught. A lot of these are estimations, but the shark catches are starting to go down, and there's no shortage of demand, with shark fin prices still being very, very high. Okay, so ICES is different from FAO, but they have a different. They look at the statistics a little bit differently, but they claim that 70% of the world's fisheries overexploited today. And since the early 80s, the annual catches remained at approximately 90 million tons. So they've gone up and down a little bit. A lot of it has to do with Peruvian anchovetas, which can vary by millions of tons. And so if you think about the effort that's gone in, the effort has not lessened or stayed the same since the early 1980s. There's been more and more effort, but the fish catch has not gone up. So it may be, and nobody really knows, it depends on looking at different trophic levels and what sort of fish we're catching, but it may be that we've pretty much approached and maybe even surpassed the ability of the ocean to replace what we take out of it. And you think about where all these fish have gone, where are all these big fish? Well, the answer is we ate them. So there are quite a few stocks that we have maxed out, and very little room to expand, if any. Just looking at the Mediterranean, which has been fished for thousands and thousands of years, but since the 50s has been fished very hard. And when people talk about going and scuba diving or snorkeling in the Mediterranean, they don't talk about big schools of fish. They generally will tell you that there's very little there, except for very small little minnow-sized things like anchovies and the like. Okay, so if you look at the Mediterranean statistics, no stock assessment done for 80% of commercially exploited stocks. So they've been fishing hard, but for 80% of them, they don't have a robust stock assessment. Around 60% of commercially important stocks are being fished outside of safe biological limits. Okay, safe biological limits means that that's the point at which you can't guarantee that the fish won't be driven to extinction or near extinction. So 60% are being fished to the point where you can expect a collapse in the fishery, according to the FAO. Large sharks at roughly 0.5% of estimated numbers in 1950. That means for every 200 large sharks that were roaming the Mediterranean in 1950, there's now one. Okay? So we've taken and eaten most, or killed and thrown back, or just taken the fins off of most of those sharks in the Mediterranean. Bluefin stocks considered to be collapsing, and but the value of a bluefin tuna is so high that it's nearly impossible to get the political will to stop people from fishing those, even though they're considered to be nearly commercially extinct. Long-lived and slow-growing species and larger specimens of targeted fish have largely disappeared from catches in some areas, and the catch per unit effort has fallen dramatically. So with the catch per unit effort, maybe they would have caught 5 fish for 100 hooks 15, 20 years ago. Now they catch 5 fish for 1,000 hooks. So they're putting much more effort in order to catch the same amount. Okay, so we've got things like this, the purse seiner with its own helicopter to be able to spot schools of fish, and we've got things like this Atlantic Dawn, which is the largest fishing vessel in the world. I think it's 400 something feet, 450 feet. So it's the size of a container ship, and here's its bridge. Okay, which is probably bigger than the classroom that we go in A4. So massive vessel that can catch huge amounts of fish. And I'll refer you to the reading that was given out on class, but is also on Moodle, to look into the construction and the probably the possible corruption and dirty dealings that went on around the construction of that vessel in the European Union. Okay, so why is it that with all of this information that we can't seem to control stocks when we know that they're dropping down? Why can't we just say stop catching so much? Well, there's a lot of political resistance when there are jobs at stake. So here we have a typical example. So it's getting a little bit old since it's 2003, but here if we read this, The European Union scientific advisors have called for a ban on all cod fishing in the North Sea, Irish Sea, and west of Scotland after surveys predicted cod stocks are likely next year to drop below their present record low level, and they have kept dropping. The environmental group WWF said cod was on the blink of oblivion, with stocks months away from total collapse. Now, WWF tends to be extremely well. They tend to push the more conservationist side and are not afraid of using extreme language like on the brink of oblivion, with stocks months away from total collapse, and that has proved not to be quite true, but they err on the side of caution. They would prefer to err on the side of caution, and I can't say that I don't support them. The latest forecasts are likely to cause friction at the forthcoming meeting of OSPAR, the body responsible for the Northeast Atlantic, where the European Union is objecting to a proposal to list cod and skate as an endangered species of need of protection. And in fact, what happened at that OSPAR meeting was they increased the total allowable catch for cod that year, which is incredible. And this is very common, though, that scientific advice gets ignored in the face of political election cycles and the like. So if we look at what's always happened so far with Graham's Law, we call it Graham's Law. All right. So here are the steps. Okay, a virgin fishery. Somebody goes out and finds a fishery, and maybe let's call it gooey ducks. Okay, so somebody in New Zealand decides they're going to go out and start catching gooey ducks, and they develop a new dredge, and they manage to catch gooey ducks, and they go out and produce a catch, and let's say they do pretty well. Okay, there are a fair few gooey ducks around, and so they'd say, yeah, okay, yeah, we're doing pretty well. They tell their neighbors. They a couple of other guys that go fishing with them. Maybe there's a mate that goes fishing, and he says, "Oh, I can get in on this. I'll just get a bank loan out." And they enters the fishery, and the catch goes up, and they keep telling people, and more people enter the fishery, and then the catch per boat starts going down. And then some boats will maintain their catch by increasing fishing effort. So maybe they're not catching as many, but they'll just fish harder. They'll fish longer. Before they were only fishing 4 days a week, or and now they're going out on weekends so that they can keep making their payments. But at some point, no matter how much you catch or how much you fish, your catch keeps going down, and that's when you're taking more fish than offspring are coming into the fishery, and then the catch rates decline drastically. And then you have a whole fleet of people out there with bank loans and all of this who've developed this industry. They weren't regulated. Too many people have come into it, and they go, no, we can't make our boat payments. We need help. We need the dole. We need welfare. And what are you going to do to help our industry? Since there was no foresight, then they're in dire straits. So let's go through that again. So pretty much that's what's always happened so far with unregulated fisheries. All right, so here you go. Virgin fishery. Catch is at zero, of course, with zero effort. One fish catches a certain tonnage. Okay, more vessels come in, and the catch keeps going up until the fish, more and more vessels go in, but you can see that this curve is not very steep. The steepness of this curve is dropping off, and it's flattening. So the catch is staying the same at this point, but more effort has gone in. So the catch is going down per unit of effort. Okay, so some people will keep fishing, increase their effort, But then at some point, no matter how much effort there is, the catch, and it starts about here. This is where you call it, where you start to say you're overfishing. The yield will go down, the catch will go down, no matter how much effort is put in. And then finally, fishers call for government assistance. And so it looks pretty bleak. We're in pretty bad shape around the world. I mean, we've got some success in New Zealand in some fisheries, but the rest of the course, we're going to be looking at how we might go about doing better in the future, and learning some theory about how we might manage fisheries, how fisheries have been managed traditionally, why that has not necessarily worked, and what we might do to do better in the future. So we'll be talking about New Zealand to a large part, the fishery zones, the history of New Zealand fisheries, commercial fisheries of New Zealand. Then we'll be getting into Ministry of Fish, that should be the Ministry of Primary Industries now, and the legislation that goes around fishing, how customary fisheries works, the quota management system up in here, how recreational fisheries are regulated, looked at, estimated in terms of their take and whether they have an effect, whether aquaculture is the answer to heading off the total collapse of fish stocks in the ocean, and an alternative management system of looking at holistics and the ecosystem approach to fisheries management. And we're also going to be incorporating local fisheries issues through getting kaitiaki and other speakers to come in and talk to us about the some of the more important issues going on with fisheries in New Zealand.